Okay. Are we on?
Oh, we're on.
Oh, we're on. We're on. Thank goodness for editing software.
Yes.
All right. All right. So my name is Ann Alton. I am the physical therapist here at Illinois Regional Pain Institute. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about nutrition and nutrition basics, and I need to, again, disclaimer, I'm not a nutritionist, okay? This is the result of me trying to figure out for myself how to eat well and try to navigate all of the incredible amounts of information, correct and incorrect, that are on the internet, okay? And so my hope is that I'll give you some kind of places to start. My belief is that everybody is a little bit differently. There are people that do really, really well on a low-fat diet. There are people who do really, really well on a high-fat diet. There are people who do really well on Mediterranean diet. There are people that do really well on paleo. I think it depends a lot on your own body and your own illnesses and issues and food sensitivities and all kinds of stuff. So that in and of itself is enough to navigate, and then to actually try to come up with whether or not, you know, these fats are good for you this year, but next year they're going to be bad for you, and, you know, eggs are horrible, and then they're good for you, and now they're horrible again, and I can't even keep up with some of that stuff. So I'm trying to make a common sense approach to food, and kind of how I kind of tried to navigate all of this. So we do have a nutritionist in the group, and so hopefully she will.
Retired, pretty much retired, so
Still interested.
All right. So anyway, so the first thing I wanted to go over is a lot of people are, you know, don't remember their health class information on proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Okay, we call those macros because they're the macronutrients that you need. Okay, did you get a handout?
Oh, you
No, we've got extra.
Right. Okay,
So now she has two. Okay, give her back her stuff.
Thank you,
Did you? All right, anyway. Okay. So protein are huge molecules. They're made up of a lot of different smaller molecules called amino acids. And basically, like letters in an alphabet, your body will take these and put together different words using these different amino acids. Okay. These proteins take on a lot of different issues in the body. They do a lot of different things, and they have to, you know, a lot of times they have to be in the exact right shape, and they have to be in the exact right temperature, and they have to be in the exact right pH in order for them to work correctly to be in the right shape. Okay. But these proteins, they can be a source of energy, but they're also major building blocks of the cells in your body. They're also things that carry out actions like hormones, neurotransmitters, cytokines, which is the messenger molecule for your immune system. Those are all proteins. Okay, so proteins are really, really important. And if you ever had an injury and been in the hospital, probably the physical therapist there says protein promotes healing, because they're the major building blocks. So you'll need, you know, protein is really, really important for that building block. Fats have a lot of purposes, and fats have been maligned, especially in the 80s. They got a really bad reputation. And so it turns out that we were sort of right and sort of wrong. And so hopefully we'll go over some of what we know about fats. But there are many, many purposes to fats. Number one, they're a huge source of energy. They do make, our body stores energy in a molecule called ATP, okay? And the body can make ATP from fats and carbohydrates. So basically, fats are a really, really high density source of this energy, okay? Obviously it stores energy. We all know about that. Okay.
Well, it stores, I don't know.
It stores it.
Stores.
The essential fatty acids are dietary fats that are really, really important for growth and development and cell functions. Okay, they can't be made by our own body's processes, so we have to get them from our diet. Okay, some of these are things like the cell walls are made out of, partially out of some of these fatty acids. The proper functioning of your nerves and your brain, fats are a huge part of the myelin sheath that covers over all of your nerves. Okay, so if you don't have those fats and aren't making, because you can't make those fats, you're not making the myelin, you can end up with things like Guillain-Barré. Of course, Guillain-Barré and all of these other things that I'm going to list off have many, many other causes and have many, many other things that contribute to them. But it can be a contributing factor if you are not getting the amount of fats that you need to having the Guillain-Barré, which is the myelin sheath being stripped off of the periphery, MS, which is the myelin sheath off of the central nervous system. So those things are really, really important. Also, our brains contain a huge amount of essential fats. Okay, that's a big part of how our brains are made. Maintaining healthy skin and tissues, all of our body cells contain some fats. Okay, and they also are necessary for those fat-soluble vitamins like the A, D, E, and K that are responsible for lots of processes throughout the body. We need to be able to get those fat solubles transported different places. And also it's really important in forming steroid hormones, which things like testosterone and cortisol that your body needs to have in order to survive. You have to have fats. Yes?
And the A, D, E, and K are, because they're fat soluble, means that your body does not wash them out.
Right.
They're water soluble, like B vitamin, vitamin C, the body will wash those out.
Yeah.
And so people take vitamins or vitamin C every day, but the A, D, E, and K, there usually are limitations to those.
Right. So when you take, if you're going to take those vitamins, keep in mind that they do get stored within the fat in your body, and they don't wash out quite as quickly. So you can get too much of those. All right. So the important part of fats. And then carbohydrates. Carbohydrates, they're used first. It's harder to store them, but it's also easier to convert them into useful energy. So that's your quick energy source. It is typically a giant molecule, and it's broken down into simpler sugars, which is then converted into that ATP molecule, okay, which is what our body uses for energy. Carbohydrates can be simple or complex. They can be, just straight honey, which is very, very simple, or it could be a very complex carbohydrate with a lot of fiber and stuff like it's in a sweet potato or a bean, okay? The larger, the more complex the carbohydrate is, the longer it's going to take your body to break it down into a simple sugar, the longer it's going to keep you full, okay? Now, some people will count the macros in terms of being having a balanced diet. Some people will count those macros, how many grams of carbohydrates they need in a day, how many grams of proteins, how many grams of fat. Some people will count those instead of counting calories. Just know that everybody is really different, okay, in terms of whether or not, ways to give yourself a balanced diet. This is one way, is to count those things. Some people do really well on that. It keeps them accountable, it keeps them, with their portion sizes in good, reasonable amounts. Other people, like me, go completely obsessive and count everything, and it absolutely takes over my entire day. Okay, so keep that in mind, that if you try that, and you end up being obsessed by it, that can be counterproductive. Yes?
Well, I will say in my experience, you're the exception. You are the exception.
Could be.
Most people are not. Well, most people are not going to be obsessed with diets, and that's why we have obesity, and that's why diabetics don't stay on their diets. In my experience, is because they cannot or will not. They will not do it long term.
Part of the reason, yes, there are lots of other reasons for obesity and for other eating
there are lots
disorders.
of reasons, but
There are
Let's talk
lots
about
of
people who actually are trying to diet.
it doesn't matter if they're trying. They will not be able to continue it because success is measured on about a 3-year basis. And if you look at it, I've known people that go out, they lose 50 pounds, within 3 years they have it back on. And
This is why diets don't work and lifestyle changes do.
Yeah,
Right,
they have
exactly.
to change their behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's that's part of what I'm trying to go for here is not necessarily a diet But you have to try these different things in order to figure out, does it work well for you. Counting calories can work for a little while. It's in order for you to recalibrate what an actual portion size is supposed to look like. That sort of thing can help. I know that did help me, but I completely then went overboard with it. And there's a lot of people in this country that have anorexia and bulimia, and that's how they control their world. And so just understand that, just because counting calories works for some people doesn't mean that it's going to work for everybody, and it could be counterproductive. Okay, I don't want anybody watching this to become anorexic.
That's
Just saying. Just saying. All right. So vitamins and minerals. Vitamins are molecules that are required for different functions in the body. There's way too many and way too many processes to go through them all here. But they cannot usually be made in the quantities needed for the body functions, so you must obtain them from the diet. Okay. And minerals, same thing, elements needed for body functions, and again, they have to be obtained from the diet for the most part. Your body can recycle to a certain extent, but you really do need to get that new influx of it. Okay, so SAD. Has anybody heard of the standard American diet? I'm sure you have.
McDonald's.
I call it SAD. Basically, yes, McDonald's. Basically, it's characterized by higher intakes of things like red and processed meat, high-fat dairy products, eggs, refined grains, white potatoes, French fries, high sugar drinks, that sort of thing. Okay. Notice the lack of greens. Notice the lack of things that are naturally red and orange and yellow, and all the wonderful colors that come across in our vegetables. Okay. So this is kind of how the American has been eating. Okay. A lot of this stuff comes in boxes. All right.
It was in boxes.
I'm really anti-box, okay? And that's about the only soapbox you will find me on in this whole diet thing, is I'm really anti-box. If it comes in a box, don't buy it. And essentially, anyway.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
What do you do? Do you eat cereal?
No.
Oh, okay. Because I don't know how you can make cereal, but I don't know anybody.
That's
if you
all.
want to buy cereal, you got to buy it in a box.
I don't think I've eaten cereal since I was 8.
I'm not, actually, to be completely honest with you, I'm not a big
cereal.
fan
Jerry
of
Seinfeld
cereals.
is, but
I think so.
I'm not a big fan of cereal. It was basically edible vitamins.
Cereal. I mean, I don't know anybody
Yeah.
who does.
If you read the book, there's a really great book out there called Salt, Sugar, Fat, and I got a lot of information from that book. But one of the things is, honestly, most of the cereals out there are edible vitamins. Maybe your whole grain and some of the newer, muesli and some of the kashi stuff may be better, but in general, if you look at the history of cereals in the food industry, they're edible vitamins. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of cereal. So I mean, again, it comes in a box. So
they have a lot of honey or sugar on them.
they tend to have a lot of sugar.
The cheap generic cereals come in bag though. So.
You're clear. Bags are fine. All right. So anyway, the problem that is with the standard American diet is it's loaded with a lot of really simple carbohydrates. This has an issue of raising up insulin production right away. That can cause a really high fluctuations in your blood sugars. This can cause, I put this in quotes, fatigue of the pancreas. Basically, the insulin starts to not respond as well, okay, and then you end up with type 2 diabetes. Sugar also feeds the undesirable bugs in the gut, and I did a whole thing on the gut about 6 or 8 months ago. It's online, but it was a really, really cool topic in and of itself. But basically, this can lead to increased inflammation in your whole body. It can lead to leaky gut. It can, obviously this is not the only cause, but it's a contributing factor for a lot of issues in the body. But sugar is not just a problem because of the blood sugars. It's a problem for a whole lot of other reasons. Okay, And the other thing to consider is that when your blood sugar isn't at a good level, your body actually doesn't make serotonin and dopamine the way it ought to. Okay, there's a whole thing where the blood sugar has to be just right in order for these chemicals to be made in your brain. And if that blood sugar level isn't just exactly right, then you're probably not making enough of those chemicals. Okay, and so sugar can really, and we're talking not just sugar, but we're talking about, any of the added corn syrups, any of the highly processed pastas and breads and white breads and things like that. Okay, so you're much better off to get the whole grain. Makes it again more complex, harder for your body to break down a little bit. So it takes those, keeps you full for longer, maintains a better blood sugar level, better insulin levels.
If you talk about sugar, dextrose, are you familiar with dextrose? It's mostly, but our pharmacist should be, right? Dextrose. Is it,
Okay.
is it,
Yeah.
this is sugar, but it dissolves it very fast, isn't it? Is this sugar or is it, what is dextrose?
It's one of the sugars.
Yeah. Anything with, was it ROSE or OSE?
OSE.
And at the end is a
Sucrose,
sugar.
dextrose.
There's a whole list of sugars.
Yeah.
And your common ones are what, fructose and glucose?
Glucose,
Glucose.
sucrose.
Sucrose, yeah.
Yeah.
She just named a bunch.
Oh, those are all sugar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So when
And
you
there's
read
a
the
whole
labels
big
on the
bunch
box,
more.
Okay, all right, okay.
you'll see all these things that you don't know what they are, and they're like, the dextrose and the sucrose and the fructose and all of that stuff. Those are all sugars. And the thing about, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but in this book, the Salt, Sugar, Fat talked a lot about the development of the food industry in our country. And we have a situation in this country where we have a whole lot of really fat people and they're all undernourished. Okay? So there's obviously plenty of calories, but not enough good calories, not enough real nutritious food out there. And what happened is that people, we had this advent of ways to store things at home, like the refrigerator and so on and so forth. And we had, improvements in our ability to move goods and services across the country. And we had things like the small neighborhood grocery store no longer being viable because everybody has a car and they don't have to carry everything home by hand. And so, on and on and on. And so we have these bigger chains, these bigger grocery stores, these bigger lots of food, and they have to stay on the shelf for longer. So the food industry became very, very invested in figuring out how do we get this stuff to stay good on the shelf for longer. And we end up with stuff like Twinkies that never go bad, right? So the three things that they add in order to extend shelf life are salt, sugar, and fat.
There are sweeteners and then there are sugars. Some sweeteners are not sugars.
Correct.
And so you have to be careful. Those don't have the same calorie counts
Correct.
that the sugar carbohydrates have.
But an interesting factoid, do you know that the women who drank diet soda, 1 liter of diet soda per week, actually had a 2.5 times increased risk of developing type 2 diabetes than the ones that drank a liter of sugared soda? Okay, so something is happening here. Okay, I can't tell you if it's I'm drinking diet soda, so I'm going to have the extra big fries. I can't tell you exactly why that is, but there's something going on with the sweetener industry then
It takes
as well.
longer to break it down, for one thing.
Okay,
And so somehow I think it will store it longer and
Okay.
maybe, I really don't beyond
I
that. but-
heard one time that it tells when you drink diet stuff, there's something in it that tells your stomach that you're actually hungrier, so you eat more. But I don't.
I've heard that.
It does.
I've heard
It
that.
does, and I'm not completely clear on the mechanism of action here, but it does increase the amount of, is it lectin, which is the hungry hormone? It does increase the amount of that. And I'm not sure, why, other than my own brain is saying, well, if I put what my brain thinks is calories there, and then it goes to look for the calories, it's going to say, wait, I don't have calories. I need more calories. So, to me, that makes sense, but that's my own brain. Okay, that's not anything I read anywhere. That's my own brain going, how would this work? Why would that be? But yes, I have heard that when you drink the diet stuff, it tells your brain starts to think that you're hungry, or
Like, hey,
I'm
I'm
not
still
sure
hungry.
exactly. I'm still hungry. I don't know.
Hungry or faster.
Anyway, so there's something going on with the sweeteners and increased risk for diabetes. And like I said, there's a whole lot of other behavioral issues that I'm sure that go along with drinking diet soda. So but there is that.
Most of the artificial sweeteners are sugar alcohol. They converted it so it doesn't have as many calories, or at least doesn't release the calories like the same amount of sugar. Okay. The other point that to kind of remember is, supposedly, we got a can of Diet Coke with no sugar in it. Okay, it's not going to cause as many dental cavities. Not necessarily.
Sure.
There's only one of the, and I can't remember if it's xylitol or which one
Xylitol.
it is. Okay,
Yeah.
that does not promote dental
Tooth
caries.
decay.
But the other ones, in all the gums and sweeteners and all that stuff, do promote it.
See, I always kind of thought that the soda was just because you're washing your teeth with acid, but maybe
Well, that's
partly.
part of it.
There is that.
It's very easy.
Anyway, okay. So the standard American diet, loaded with a lot of simple carbohydrates. That just does this with your blood sugars and makes things leads to bad stuff later, right? Okay. It's also loaded with processed fats. So now, in order to increase shelf life, okay, so they added these fats to the food. They're beneficial fats, the ones that our body tends to be able to use better and with less harm, tend to be oils at room temperature. Okay, things like the olive oil and that they tend to be that way. But that's not what you need in order to get a long shelf life. So they changed these fats into fats that are now solid at room temperature, okay? And those are called trans fats. And we've heard a lot about trans fats over the years, the last few years, and how they're bad and how we are trying to get them out of our food supply and yada, yada, yada. Well, we're going to replace those with some naturally occurring solid room temperature fats, which may or may not solve the problem. Okay. Again, we're looking at the issue of shelf life here, and so it's may or may not be a fix in terms of our own health. Okay. They tend to be loaded with sodium. Okay. So in the 80s, there was this huge push to decrease table salt use. And while I'm not saying I'm not saying to you it's okay for you to dump the entire shaker onto your food. Table salt use never has been the major source of sodium in our diet. Okay, it's always been monosodium glutamate. It's always been the salts and the sodium containing chemicals that they put in our food to increase the shelf life. Okay, so we have this issue where we have these fad diets. Okay, they come in. Okay, so in the 80s it was cut out all the fat, go really, really low fat. Okay, which makes sense for some people. Okay, I know that if you have a fatty liver, or if you don't have a gallbladder, you really have to watch your fats. I get that. Okay, we're talking about the great fad diets that everybody follows. All right, so the marketers and the people that did the food production, they went, people want low fat. Let's give them low fat. So what they did was they increased the amount of salts and sugars in their food. Okay, so and then we went, low carb. So we're taking out all the sugars out, and we're putting in fake sugars, and we're putting in much more fats and much more salts. So they are basically, all they're doing is they're taking those 3 ingredients and they're manipulating them to give us what we want. And this is part of the reason I'm anti-box. Okay, because it's always a product. Okay.
Kind of the whole reason is salt, fat, sugar taste good.
They do, and there's actually a
And
literal
that's what they're doing.
science.
They're catering
There's
to taste.
there's a literal science out there where they actually, with the sugar they call it a bliss point, and with fats they call it something else. But there's actually a science where they determine in a certain amount of food, in a certain bite of food, where that bliss point is. How much sugar do you need to put in to make it addictive and to make people want to eat more and put the next bite in and the next bite in and the next bite in? This is how they sell more Coca-Cola to the same number of people. Okay, and the Twinkies and the whatever else. So there are actual studies out there that increase the amount of desirability of the food, so you will buy more of it. Okay, which contributes to obesity.
You're going to start deep frying Twinkies in marketing.
Oh, I know, and that just makes me want to puke. Okay. So anyway, so the upshot of the standard American diet, there are a lot of calories, very little nutritional value. Okay, so this is where we have a lot of fat people running around, a lot of people with weight issues, and they're still undernourished, they're still unhealthy, they're still having lots of problems with their bodies. Okay. All right, so scratch cooking. This is my anti-box answer. Okay. And the actuality of it is that cooking from scratch really is not as hard as we've been taught. Okay. It's definitely harder. It does take a little bit more time, but it doesn't have to be as prohibitive as you think it is. Okay. And I'm going to go through some things that I do at home to help me to do this. I included a bunch of my favorite recipes. Now, not everybody has the same taste buds as I do, so you may or may not like them. You may try that, and that bean soup was just horrible. Okay. But the other reason that I included them is because I really like some of the websites that they came from. That can be a really good source of some different kinds of food. Okay. You'll notice there is one commonality with all of the recipes except for one that I give you, and that is that they are grain-free. Okay, that is a personal issue with me. That is my own food sensitivity. But I still think that they're good, and they add some difference to your diet. Okay, so that said, have fun with those, and you don't have to follow them to the letter. I don't. I'm one of those people where if it has like 12 steps, I just throw everything into a pot and just cook it. Okay. And don't worry about, crushing the garlic with the flat of the thing. I don't worry about all that stuff. I just chop it up, or, get the little jar of it. Anyway, I'm okay with jars, apparently. All right. So scratch cooking, it's not as hard. You have more control over the ingredients that are in your food. Our food industry has really duped us into really thinking that scratch cooking is hard. It's really not.
It's not bad.
Okay.
It's just chopping stuff.
I look for recipes, and the recipes that I gave you here don't have that, but I look for recipes with 5 or fewer ingredients, just because they take less time and they're easier to do and they're simpler, I think. Learn to use your crock pot. Your crock pot is your friend. It is your friend. Okay, my biggest obstacle to using my crock pot is the fact that you actually have to plan ahead. Okay?
I had to get a bigger one. That was my biggest obstacle.
No, seriously, you have to plan ahead. If you don't put the stuff in the crock pot in the morning, it is not ready at the night when you get home at night.
You have to say screw it.
But
Eat it in the morning.
planning is your biggest money and time and energy saver. Okay, so what I have taken to doing is at night when I'm hanging out and I'm kind of winding down from my day, that's when I do my planning. And it may not even be until, maybe Tuesday night that I'm doing this, and I'm going to do the shopping on Sunday. But I kind of write down these ideas, okay, make your list off of that, and go shopping from there. So if a lot of us have really never been taught how to cook, or have been taught how to cook from scratch. This is where having a friend over to help, you can make humongous batches, and then everybody take home half the food, and then that way you have, some help and some fun while you're doing it. There are also some classes that are available out there. One of them is, there's some at ICC. You can take a class on cooking at ICC. OLLI, if you're over age 50, you can go to OLLI courses. They'll teach you how to cook. I think the Hult Center has some nutritional courses, and the Peoria Park District has some nutritional stuff going on as well. Yeah.
There's 2 ladies that bought, I think, the cookery in Morton.
Okay.
And they are doing classes.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so I don't know too much about it, but
Yeah. But yeah, for some of us and then there's the freeze and stores ones that you can do. Like a lot of people are doing, they have a great big humongous kitchen, and they get 8 people together, and you make food for like the month, and then you go, you bring it all home and you put it in your freezer and whatnot. Okay.
those ladies too, by the way, will cook for people.
Okay.
And so if you don't want to cook, you can buy your healthy, probably organic meals.
Uh-huh.
They're probably going to be kind of pricey, but it might be worth it.
Right. If you've got if you got more money than energy.
Talk about North Carolina.
Uh-huh.
There was 4 girlfriends, and when we had all the children, one took care of the children, and one cooked for all 4. The next time, the other one was
that's
cooking
neat.
for 4.
That's neat.
And when the husbands came home, we had the food.
Right.
We also lived box free.
Yes.
Yes.
So this is,
But it's 4 friends, and every day someone cooked it, and then
that's awesome.
when we had
That's really
the carpool, we exchanged and went home with it.
That's
it was,
great.
For 3 days, a holiday,
Yeah.
like
Yes.
a vacation.
Yes. Well, and the other thing is, as you know, if you have chronic pain, your world gets really, really small, and you don't see your friends as often, and this can be an excuse to get friends together. Okay.
You were smart when you were young.
Yeah. Okay. So the next thing the next question a lot of people want to ask is do we go with organic or not? And organic is so much more expensive and stuff. So I included this handy dandy guide from this great website called Environmental Working Group. It's got the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen on it, okay? And what they've done is that for 2016, they come out with a new list every year. For 2016, they did testing of how much pesticide residue there are on each one of these items, and they've ranked them in order of the Dirty Dozen are the ones that you really, if you want to buy that product, you probably are better off to go with the organic. The Clean 15 are the ones that are probably pretty good to just go ahead and buy the normal farming availability. So that, I thought, was a really handy thing. And those do change every year. Different farmers get wind that their strawberries are up on the top of the Dirty Dozen list, and so they start to do some other things.
Well, if you notice, a lot of like the avocado and papaya, grapefruit, cantaloupe, anything with a really thick skin,
Very
you
good.
could probably buy a regular.
Very good point.
If you're very concerned, I read years ago that apples and potatoes, although I don't see potatoes on here, if you're going to buy, because the pesticide goes right through the skin of those items into the fruit of the plant. So apples and potatoes, it looks like tomatoes is on here, and spinach if you buy spinach leaves. So anything that's thin, you want to buy.
Yeah, no, that's a good, very, very good. So that is I try to get organic, but if it's not available in organic, I don't sweat it too much. It has raised my
Awareness.
well, it has raised my awareness. It's raised my grocery bill a little bit, but to be honest with you, not as much as you would think. Not buying in the edge of the grocery stores, you would expect to spend a whole lot more, and I really honestly probably only spend about maybe $20 more a month or a week on groceries by not getting
Probably about right.
by not getting the boxes. So and the frozen stuff.
And planning.
Yes, and planning ahead. And bringing, and you know what though, I save all of that because I bring my lunch. And so when I'm out, I don't eat out anymore. So I save all of that money too.
I do.
Okay.
Not so much.
All right, so strategies, planning meals ahead of time, making a list ahead of time. I will typically do this weekly. I tried to do it monthly once, and that was a disaster. This is the coolest thing I have learned doing this research for this. Hy-Vee will shop for you. This is so awesome. You can go online, you can pick out all your food, and then you can go and pick it up. So you don't have to walk through the store. Hy-Vee will shop for you. And if you are within a 15-mile radius of their store, they will deliver it, and they will bring in the really heavy, like the bottled water and all of that stuff. They will bring it inside for you.
Have you had that done?
I live out in the boonies, so no, I have not had it done. But
You know
I did
somebody
call.
that has?
Yeah, and I did call and ask, you know, are all of your people, have they all been, you know, background checked? Because I don't necessarily know if I want them to, but yes, they have.
Good idea.
All of them have been background checked, and so yeah, it will bring you your bottled water. So
And it only costs about $5 or $6 from Hy-Vee.
it really, and if you spend over $100, it's not even that, it's free. So if you, you know, at least once a month to get all of your staples, like your flour and your, you know, all of your water and your laundry detergent and all the really heavy stuff, you know, do that, so save your back. And, you know, hey, that's, I mean, like, I've been running around this office going, hey, did you know Hy-Vee will deliver it? They'll shop for you, they'll deliver it. It won't deliver to my house. But I've been very, very excited about that.
Sitting. So you're just substituting sitting now.
Yeah.
Because if you don't go shopping, when do you get your exercise?
That is true.
Actually, yeah,
That
that
is
is
true.
where I
And a
go
lot of
I like to
times,
bring that up, but I mean, it's.
yeah,
And
and
a lot of exercise
It's
shopping,
mostly,
you're
what
right.
you're talking about is for people that have a tight schedule, the young people like you that are working. Old people, we need to go to the store.
We run
Yeah,
with
we
the
do.
bag.
We need
Okay.
to look at stuff.
Okay, so
Exercise.
what I have to say about that is yes, going to the grocery store can be a huge source of exercise. It can be a stress reliever. It can get you out of the house. Okay,
stresses
I have
me
no
out.
problem with any of that. However, I have been in a situation where I have planned my entire week around going to the grocery store because of pain. Something else happens.
Yeah.
And now I have to go because there's a funeral or there's something else that I have to do, and I got nothing left for the grocery store. Okay, so what I'm talking about is if you are in a situation where you are truly rationing your energy and you are truly looking for, if you have MS and you cannot get to it because you don't have the spoons to do it, this is an option. Okay,
Very good.
and it's a better option than running through to the box part of the store and throwing stuff in your cart so that you'll have the energy. Because this way you can still cook from scratch if you have the energy to do
Very
that.
good.
So, you know, it is a trade-off, and yes, you know, you can get exercise from that. But if it's the difference between cooking from scratch or not, or not eating well at all, then by all means use this as an option at this point. You can always train to be able to, it sounds crazy, but you have to train for the life you want. So if you want to be able to go to the grocery store and cook from scratch, you have to train for that. If you've been on the couch for a year because of pain or 2 years because of pain. Okay, so we're, you know, baby steps, and there are ways to trade off. Okay. There are meal planning services that are really cool. They'll usually offer different diets, so they'll offer low fat, they'll offer paleo, diabetic, AIP paleo, which is the autoimmune protocol, Mediterranean, all of that stuff. They'll plan your meals, they'll send you the recipes, they'll send you the shopping list.
Who is this we're talking about?
They're one of them, and I only came up with one of them. It's called SavingDinner.com.
Oh.
But if you look up meal planning services, there are a bunch of them.
Oh.
Okay, and so that's what they do is they come up with, and usually you can tell them, I only really want to spend 10 minutes on prep. And they'll come up with recipes that spend 10 minutes on prep. Okay, so there are people out there who are willing to do that. It does cost a little bit of money, but typically these services will let you try a week for free.
What's it called again?
SavingDinner.com. It's on page 2, I think. It's on the bottom. SavingDinner.com.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah.
Gotta go there.
Cooking in large batches
Page
is
2.
yeah. Cooking in large boxes is or batches boxes. That wasn't a Freudian slip at all. Cooking in large batches is you can freeze the excess for quick meals later. Typically what I do, I cook for the entire week and I end up eating the same thing all week long. I have like 2 or 3 different meals that I cook on Sunday and then I eat the same thing all week. If you don't like doing that, you can freeze half of them and then, then get more variety in that way. Or invite a friend, one of the two.
Another cooking method is a steamer.
Mm-hmm.
For people that don't want to do the crock pot.
Mm-hmm.
A steamer is electric and it has water on the bottom. It's a machine, and you throw your vegetables in, and you can also throw in probably a fish, something a little thinner that's faster to cook. And the vegetables are wonderful steamed, and it only takes. You can walk away. You wash your vegetables, throw them in, you walk away, and they're done within 30 minutes.
Sometimes 10.
Yeah, it depends on what the vegetable is. Yeah.
It's at Aldi's once a year. It comes 3 tiers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And
I'd like to have another one.
you can
Oh,
send
cool.
Plug it in, turn it on.
turn it
Yeah,
on.
right.
And it's a fantastic gift.
Oh,
For
great.
it's
I take bribes.
and fantastic.
It's very
easy. Clean. Yeah.
all right. You can experiment with new veggies and fruits. I know there are a lot of them that I had never tried before embarking on this whole thing. Typically what I'll do is I'll pick one new one every now and then come up with a recipe or whatever that sounds good that I want to try it. But then I have some like staples, some things that I know that I like. And I'll make a little extra of that just in case I don't like the plantains or I don't like the bok choy or whatever weird thing that I have not tried yet. What's really funny is when you go through the checkout line and especially like the younger kids are looking at it going,
What is it?
what's that? And then you feel really smart and really hip because that's bok choy. It's Chinese cabbage, but but anyway, so you can experiment with that, different other culture-inspired foods. I'm a big fan of the one-pot meal, but or like soups and stews just because it's easier and it's easy to carry and stuff like that. 80-20 rule, cut yourself a break. If you can't find the desired item in the organic, or you don't have the time to make something from scratch, or you really have a hankering for hot dogs, cut yourself a break. Don't get so completely freaked out that you cannot possibly ever do this unless there's a food issue like peanuts and you're going to die if you eat peanuts. So don't do that. But otherwise, give yourself a break. And I do the 80-20 rule. Probably ends up being more like 90-10 because I'm afraid that I'm going to give myself too much leeway. But anyway, you get the point. Baby steps. First things first, make sure you're eating breakfast. Add breakfast. Okay? Then fix your breakfast so that it's more nutritious. So get yourself in the habit of eating breakfast. And then instead of a white bagel with cream cheese, maybe go with a whole wheat bagel and cheese. Or something along those lines. You know what I mean? So like fix it,
McDonald's.
McDonald's. All right. That's also a box, I'll have you know.
What a
never
good
seen a
nutritious
McDonald's in a box.
food for breakfast that's easy is your hard-boiled eggs.
Uh-huh.
And you can grab a hard-boiled egg, or you can
You can do those in a big batch.
you have them in the refrigerator, and if you want to make a sandwich, it's already there. It's easy, and
Yeah.
if you have a little protein in the morning, it will hold you longer than if you have a bagel. You'll feel better during the morning.
It also helps boost up the cortisol, which helps with the energy levels throughout the day.
Nothing's better than an Einstein bagel with some cinnamon.
Yeah, I understand. I
don't care what you do.
understand.
That's it.
No eggs.
All right, but so anyway, but start there. Start like with breakfast. Make your breakfast a little healthier, and then move on to lunch, and then then you can move on to dinner. I mean, you don't have to overhaul your entire diet all at once. Okay. Cut back on sugar. This really worked for me. This was a trick that my sister, who is an acupuncturist and Chinese herbal medicine practitioner, told me about, and it really helped. I have this terrible, horrible addiction to sugar. It's ridiculous. But if I eat a lot of onions and sweet potatoes and beets and carrots, the really sweet vegetables, I don't crave the sugar as much. So that's how I get off of sugar, is I increase the consumption of those instead.
Healthy foods.
Yeah. It's not just the healthy foods, though. It's because I've tried the other, but it's the sweet vegetables. It's something about the sweets is enough that satisfies that little portion of the brain that lights up like heroin when you eat sugar. Okay. Anyway, at least it did for me. So it's something to try. Okay. Try a food processor. That can save time and energy on chopping. Frozen fruits and veggies. They're often already chopped and washed. They're frozen at a time where they're at peak level of nutrition, and so they're typically pretty good that way. Okay, that's the exception to the rule as far as the freezer section goes. But a lot of times they're often better quality than fresh because they are packaged immediately and frozen immediately. So you can save a lot of money by getting a lot of stuff from that. I wash my fruits and veggies immediately when I get home. Okay, and my method is simply to take a big basin, fill it up with water, add about a cup of vinegar to it, and soak the veggies, fruits, whatever, for about 10-15 minutes. Okay, rinse them off and then dry them off before you store them, and that will whatever is on those fruits and veggies, like the E. coli or the whatever that gives you the fuzzy, unidentified fuzzy objects in your freezer, the fridge, the UFOs, that cuts way back on that. I've noticed. So if you can wash them, and a lot of times I'll just even go ahead and cut them up right away. That helps too, because then later on you're like, oh, I need to make a stir fry, and it's already cut up. You just stir fry. Okay. I also gave you a storing thing. Fridgesmart Tupperware has these things that have mixed reviews, but they're these Tupperware containers that have little vents in them. Okay, you don't have to get these, but the point of this handout is that some of these foods actually need to breathe, have a little bit more fresh air circulating, and so if you're going to store them in like a zippy bag, leave the zippy bag open just a little bit, okay, when you do that. Or even just if you're going to be in any kind of Tupperware or plastic container, you can just kind of pop up the lid just a little bit so that there's a little bit more air flowing through there. I have noticed this actually really helps with how long my veggies keep. Okay, so this has really helped me out quite a bit. So that just tells you how, and the vents aren't very big. They're like the size. They're a little bit smaller than a pencil eraser. Okay, so they're not very big vents in these things. But if you poke a hole in the
you poke a fork. Just push a fork.
Yeah, just a little bit of ventilation can really increase the life of the vegetable, which allows you to then only shop once a week instead of twice a week for fresh veggies. Okay. The last thing I have to say is to eat for your health and not for your future debut on America's Next Top Model. Okay, none of us are going to go. Keep in mind that their portion sizes will also save calories. It'll save money. Okay, it seems really stupid, but if you think about it, if you normally eat a double portion size, and you eat half of that, so you eat one whole portion size, you just saved half your money and half your calories. And boy, that seems like really simple and stupid when I say it out loud, but when you actually like internalize that and realize that, you're like, holy crap. Or at least I did. I was like, oh my gosh, really? I didn't, anyway. So I also included, like I said, the recipes. I've tried and liked these recipes. They point to good websites, and you can substitute ingredients on any of these. So just, play around with it, have fun with it. There are lots of good websites. A note about some of the fad diets. Honestly, please just use your common sense. Any diet, and unless you have a food sensitivity, but any diet that says you should cut out an entire food group is probably not good. It's probably not going to work, okay? Because we have these different groups of food, because we have different nutrients that we need from all of them, okay? Now, if you have an issue with, red meat because you have mammalian mammalian meat allergy from a tick bite, then don't eat red meat. Don't eat mammals. But, okay, if you have celiac, don't eat gluten. All right, but for the most part, for most of us, if you're going to take out an entire food group, it's probably a fad.
All the diets
The
are
Atkins
fad
diet,
diets.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
They're all fad diets.
Yeah. So I included some things from like Forks Over Knives, which is a great vegetarian website. They've got really great vegetarian dishes that you can try. There's Bacon Mum. There's a lot of paleo sites, but mainly because paleo is so big right now. That's where I'm finding all the from scratch recipes. Okay, but. And it actually fits in with a lot of my dietary restrictions as far as my own food sensitivities. But that said, use your common sense.
But all these recipes have more than 5 ingredients.
I know, I did say that. The exception is this first one.
Yeah, I saw
Oh,
that.
the first
one.
This
This is how I learned to eat sweet potatoes, actually. Because I thought sweet potatoes had to be smothered in
Butter.
and sugar and brown sugar and syrup and all of that stuff. And no, it does not. They're really good when they're not.
It has to have brown sugar and maybe maple syrup.
Anyway, so, but anyway, that was less than. So yes, you're right. All of these have more than that. More ingredients. I'm sorry. But they were some of my favorite. I just went through my favorites on my, and I just kind of printed those off. All right, any questions?
How do you know organic foods are not going to be the next trans fads? Because of all the changes they change pesticides
Maybe you didn't do it.
10 times a year,
Yeah.
okay?
Big portion.
So I guess I'm having trouble understanding what your question is.
Okay,
The organic is the new fad?
they're gonna fertilize it with something,
Yeah.
they're gonna keep the insecticide
yeah,
content down with something.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you know
A new.
those
Yeah.
are
Yeah,
gonna be, or, in 10 years, are not gonna be worse than what they're using for everything else
You
today?
don't. You don't. And this is one.
That's
The
the
reasons
scary
why
part.
it is the
It's
scary
scary.
part. So there was a really great book called Animal Vegetable Miracles, written by Barbara Kingsolver, and her family went on this adventure to eat only local foods for an entire year. Okay, every single person in the family had a cheat. Like, I think she had chocolate, because you can't grow chocolate locally. Her husband was coffee. Her daughter, I think, was like raisins or something. Anyway, so everybody had one cheat that they could do, but everything else had to be either farmed or harvested or butchered within 50 miles of their own home. And it is a fascinating book. Number one, it talks a lot about how our food system, the way it is, how it's trucked all over everywhere, has completely destroyed our understanding of what's in season.
Right.
We have no idea what's in season anymore. 95% of us. Okay. Yeah. Okay. If it's on sale, probably it's in season. But other than that, we really don't know. It's in season in Brazil or it's in season in Uganda. Who knows? But so there's a whole explanation of how you know when things are in season and what order they kind of come in. So you have, first of all, you have your stalks like your asparagus and your the sour one. It's red stalk. It looks like celery. Rhubarb. Thank you. Thank you. So those come first, and then the smaller berries, and then the larger things, and then the things with the heavier rinds, and so there's a whole pattern that occurs throughout the year, and so she explains that. But she also explains like how they raised their own chickens and they did their own farming and how much money they were able to save doing this. And I mean, granted, it's a really
They kind of went back to like.
They did. They went back
1930.
to self-sufficiency in that. But they talked to their neighbors, and their neighbors, they said, well, we're planting corn this year, and so okay, fine, we're going to plant more of this other thing, so that they could trade. Because and the big joke was, do you know how to tell if somebody doesn't have any friends? They're in the grocery store buying zucchini. They don't have friends if they're buying their zucchini, right?
Yes.
Because there's usually some sort of bumper crop or their own cucumbers or whatever. And there was this whole ding dong ditch thing that happened for the longest time in this neighborhood of theirs, because everybody kept ringing the doorbell and they'd open the door and there'd be a big bag of zucchini or a big bag of tomatoes or something on their doorstep that the other people didn't. They've got it coming out their ears. So anyway, it was a really interesting book. She's a very, very good writer. It's Animal Vegetable Miracle, and it's all about getting your food locally so that you know where it comes from. You know what sort of fertilizer or what sort of pest management they've used. You know all of that stuff. And there's a big trend towards that, but don't go to I don't say don't go. When you go to the farmer's market, be very tactful about how you ask them what their pest management is, because if you ask them if they use pesticides, they get kind of I just asked him, do you use pesticides? He's like, well, yeah. And I'm like, but I don't want pesticides. Anyway, it was a funny conversation.
Did he think it was a funny conversation?
No, he did not think it was funny. He did not think it was funny. Anyway, I haven't been back to that farmer's market since. Anyway.
You actually don't have to ask if you just look at the product. If it's got little bug holes in it, and
get the spots on the apples.
They don't. But if it looks really
That's
good,
true. Lots
they
of
do.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
That's like the organic, you look at it, and think, oh,
That's awful.
Yeah, but I would rather that and have bees and monarchs than.
Because somebody offered me some of those.
So, anyway. Thank you.
I know, they're delicious.
Thank you, everybody.